Okay, for my project, I did effectiveness of video games and video cameras in physical education, and my name is Michael Schneider. All right, introduction. Video cameras are utilized in sports to critique form and mechanics. When I played sports when I was younger, we used, for example, myself, we used video cameras to critique my pitching form, and that helped me a lot with figuring out what I was doing right and wrong as far as my mechanics. Video games are becoming more and more kinesthetic bodily movements. Some examples of these are Wii Sports, Xbox Connect, and PlayStation Move. All of those video game systems require some sort of movement, and when you're playing them, it gets your body moving and stuff like that. Teenagers have begun to use these systems as a form of workout. One of the articles I did for my literature review was about Dance Dance Revolution, which is a game where you step on these directional pads, and it's kind of like a dancing game, and you can actually play a game type in the game that shows how many calories you're burning, stuff like that. So it basically shows you what kind of workout you're doing. One of the questions I asked for my research was, why aren't these devices being used in physical education? I mean, if people are using these in our society and they're enjoying using them and they're helping them become better in sports, why haven't we utilized them in the educational system? And then how useful can these actually be in physical education? I mean, can we get use out of these, or is there no purpose for them? Is it basically not going to help out at all? Okay, and then literature reviews. First article I used for my inquiry project was an article by Lin Wang, creating student-centered learning experience through the assistance of high-end technology in physical education. Uh, this was an article basically going over devices that are used in physical education. Obviously, as you can tell through the title, it was kind of it was a good article to read. It definitely helped me a lot with my paper. I liked it a lot. The next article was the one I touched on earlier. It was by Drisha Nair. Wii gaming and Dance Dance Revolution could help fight obesity epidemic. This article talked a lot about how younger people that are already overweight, they want to use these video games to work out because they they don't have to go out in public. Let's say go to a gym, go to a weight room, stuff like that to get in a workout. They can just do it in the comfort of their own home. The next article was by Michelle. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. How technology is being used in PT and PTA education, which is physical therapy. It was over physical therapy, but it touched on a lot of important pieces of technology that I think could also be utilized in physical education. They talked about iPods, video cameras, stuff like that. So it was a very informing article for my paper. The last paper I read was Marina, another name I don't know how to pronounce, exploring the potential of computer and video games for health and physical education. So basically, that was another article that just kind of talked about what exactly I wanted to look at. It's talking about video games, talking about stuff like that, just using pieces of technology in physical education. Alright, so then for my data collection, I used 10 college students, ranging in academic level at Nebraska Wesleyan. I wanted to stay inside of where I go to school, obviously, so I don't have to go outside of school because it just makes it a little more simple so I could remind people to take my survey. I used both males and females. It was about, if I remember right, it was about equal on both. So I tried to get it as equal as possible. Uh, I was debating whether to use students that are in the public school system right now in Lincoln because I thought that would be maybe more I don't know how to put it, but it would be better for right now because they're actually in school. But then I thought I wanted students that have had the most physical education classes, students that have taken the most classes. So obviously those are people that have graduated from high school. And so I decided to use college students. And plus they might have more qualified insight. I use Google Docs and email to collect both forms of data. I used Google Docs for the survey, and I used email for my interview. I wasn't able to actually meet up with the person I interviewed because we couldn't meet up at certain times, but I definitely got everything I wanted to know out of just emailing him questions. And the survey I used was 6 questions. I didn't want to have a ton of questions for my survey, but I think the 6 questions I used definitely were something that helped the research out, and I got a lot of information out of those. Data methodology, data analysis. I think percentages were probably my favorite ones. For questions that had more than one answer, I like to use percentages just because it kind of puts it into perspective for me. I used mean for questions that involve numbers, which was basically all of my questions if you count number of times the group said yes or no for some of the yes or no questions. So you can basically use average for any of the questions. Mode, I wanted to see the most common response on particular questions. So mode is finding what is answered the most, and I liked also to see that just because it was interesting to see what was being answered the most often. Here's my results page. Just a few of the graphs. We'll start on the top right. This was a question asking if you've ever used video cameras to critique fundamentals for a sport. So that was going back to the start in my introduction, saying where I've used video cameras to critique my fundamentals. So why can't we do that in physical education where everyone is playing every single sport in the class, and why not use video cameras for the teacher to help aid his education of fundamentals? Go to the left bar graph. Games played by participants. We had a lot of people played Wii Sports. That was probably the most popular. Wii Sports doesn't get your body moving as much as say DDR does. Wii Fit would get your body moving a little more, but I mean you're definitely moving. It's better than playing with a Xbox controller and just sitting there. At least you're getting some sort of movement in. Xbox Connect and PlayStation Move weren't as popular. They're newer, so not as many people have had the experience of playing them. And when I asked this question, I wanted them to ask if they've played them ever. It wasn't like if they've played them in the past couple of days. It's if they've ever played them. And so I think those numbers are pretty good. I mean, it shows that a lot of people have played these, so they might have interest in them when they are in the classroom. Here's on the bottom right is opinions on effectiveness of video games in physical education. That's basically just showing what the participants of the survey thought about how basically if they thought video games would work in the classroom. And that number was actually higher than I thought it would be. I think the average was around 7. It was about around 7ish, so a little higher than 7. So it's a pretty good number, I thought. And then just a little statistic on the bottom there: 0 out of 10 of the survey participants have ever used video games or video cameras in a physical education class, which is understandable because I don't think most of us have. But eight of those people said that they would enjoy trying it out. So there's obviously an interest for at least giving it a shot in a physical education classroom. Okay, conclusions and implications. I learned a lot that using technology in education is more than just using PowerPoint and YouTube. When I think of technology in the classroom, or when most people think about it, they just think about putting up a PowerPoint, going through slides, or showing a video on YouTube, helping it further explain a topic. And this whole process of researching this paper has kind of put it into a different perspective as far as technology in the classroom. Um, I think through this research that I would actually like to try out, which is in my further inquiry, but I'd like to actually try out these things, video games and video cameras, and see what they can actually, how effective they can actually be. I think all teachers can benefit from this paper. It just shows that there's more forms of technology out there that can be utilized in the classroom. You know, it's not just showing videos, it's not just putting up a PowerPoint. There's other things that can be used out there besides those two things. Okay, further inquiry. Like I said, it would be interesting to test out both of these devices, and I would like to maybe do a very extensive survey at the end of the semester and see what these students actually thought about using the video cameras and video games. You know, it'd be interesting to get their perspective and see if they actually work. I'd like to also maybe research other forms of technology and add them to the paper. You know, I wanted to look at maybe iPads and using calorie counters. I know Nike Running has an app where you can see how long you ran, what your mile pace was, and how many calories you burned. So just stuff like that would be interesting to mess around with. Here's my survey questions. I tried to keep them pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but also I thought I got a lot of information out of them. You know, it put it into a new perspective, and some of them were open-ended, so I could allow the participants to kind of put their input in it. So I got a lot out of it, and I think that all the questions helped me out a lot. And these are my references for the project. Just I use Google, so Google Docs, and then there's the 4 literature reviews that I had for the inquiry project.